إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم وأشهد أن حبيبنا ومولانا وسيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, we start by praising Allah, the Most High. We thank Him for all of His blessings that He has given us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, upon his family, upon his companions, and upon the believers until the end of time. And dear brothers and sisters, I remind myself first, as well as all of you, to always be in a state of taqwa, to always be in a state of awareness of Allah, our Creator. Dear brothers and sisters, there's a famous story about 3 blind men. And these 3 blind men who Allah took away from them the blessing of sight, which is a great ni'mah indeed that we take for granted. They came across an elephant and they were asked, and they started trying to describe this elephant. So one of them, he grabs on one of the legs, he can't see, so he starts feeling around. And he grabs on one of the legs and he says, this is a big, huge column. And then the other one, he grabs on the ear and he starts describing it and saying, this is like a canteen, a big canteen. In the old days, you had these long sort of containers. Then the other one, he grabs, he touches, he feels on the tusk, and he says, no, this is like a sharp spear. And they all were unable, of course, to describe the full reality because they're just looking at a piece of the reality. And some people, they do this they have this sort of relationship with the deen, with Islam, that they break it up, or they only put their attention on one aspect of this beautiful way of life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. And some people, they say, alhamdulillah, I'm a good character, I treat people with kindness and with gentleness and therefore I'm a good Muslim. But however, that person may not even be involved, may never go to the masjid, they may not be praying at all. Another person may say that, I am very active in the community and fighting and striving for political change or for justice and so on and so forth, but they may be very lacking in other parts of their personality. Other people may be very involved in their relationship with Allah in terms of their worship with Allah, but when it comes to the rights of people and the relationship with people, it doesn't look good at all. They talk about people and they don't, they backbite and they slander and they treat people really poorly. So Islam can't be looked at this way where we just focus on different parts, but Islam is all of that as one complete whole system. Islam is this strong belief that sits in the heart. Islam is this strong relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we embody in our prayer, in our charity, in our fasting, in the hajj that we make. Islam is about treating others well, establishing justice on this earth, and all of the different comprehensive realities that we know about our beautiful religion. And because this religion was complete, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in this ayah, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. That today I have completed for you your deen, your religion, your way of life. And I have made whole my favor upon you. I've given you everything. And I am pleased, this is Allah the Creator telling us, and I am pleased with Islam being your way of life. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He gives us this complete system, He wants us to take it full scale, all the way, not leave anything untouched. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا ادْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَّةً وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Allah tells us, O you who believe, enter into Islam all the way, completely. Most of the mufassirin, they say that this word kaffa here, it means everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave you in Islam, take it. Every commandment that He gave to you, live it. Everything that He told you to stay away, every prohibition, stay away from it as much as you can. So this is our attitude towards our deen, that we want to enter into it, and we want to grasp it as much as we possibly can. Whole scale, not just take a piece from here and a piece from there and we're satisfied with that sort of existence. And it's this entering into, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أُدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ. Enter into, in the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses here is as-silm. Those that explain the Quran, they said that as-silm here means as-salam, which means al-Islam. It means peace, which in its full embodiment is the way of life that we call Islam as a whole. So enter into Islam, which is going to give you salam, which is going to give you peace, it's going to give you peace of mind, it's going to give you contentment, it's going to give you the ability to deal with the troubles and the difficulties of life. When you're confused and you don't know which direction to turn, you look to the Book of Allah, you look to the practice of our Prophet ﷺ to know how to proceed forward. So we look at every single aspect of this deen and we try to embrace it as much as we can. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about how the people of previous nations, they dealt with the revelation, how they dealt with the divine guidance. Right? Islam came after, at the end of the chain, this continuous chain where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets throughout history teaching mankind how to live and how to establish their relationship with Allah and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. At the end of that chain comes Islam. But some of the people that came before, even though they had divine guidance, He tells us about them so we can learn from them. And from amongst these people, Banu Israel, the children of Israel, the children of Yaqub alayhi salam, the great prophet Jacob. And He tells us how they dealt with the divine guidance. And He rebukes them for the way they dealt with it. Because what did they used to do? They used to pick and choose. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Allah reprimands them. He says, and do you believe in only a part of it? And you disbelieve in another part? What is your right, O human being, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Lord, has given you the way in which you need to live, but then you choose, well, you know what, I'm just going to take this, but I'm going to leave this. This doesn't work for me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what is the end of those people. He says, فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَى أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this very stern warning for those that approach the deen this way. And He says, and what will be the reward for those that pick and choose their deen, their religion, except that they will be disgraced in this life. In this life. And in the next, and the day of judgment, they will be sent back to the most severe punishment. And Allah is not heedless of what you do. So it's a very stern kind of warning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us from having this approach to life. And because the one who picks and chooses his religion, he's as if he doesn't believe that this is from Allah, but this is, so I'm going to hold on to this, but this can't be. And that in and of itself is, in its essence, going far, far, far astray, because we take the Qur'an as a complete whole, as a divine guidance in its full totality. And this was the way of the Sahaba, the companions of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. They never fell short in implementing Islam in every aspect of life. And you see, the moment the Prophet ﷺ, he left this world, then we have the great companion of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, the first Khalifa, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. What was the first major trial that took place during his period of leadership? There were some tribes, there were some Muslims, many Muslims, who they said, we are fine with implementing and integrating every aspect of Islam into our life, but we're not going to give you the zakah. We're not going to pay the zakah. Why? Because this was something that was due to the Prophet ﷺ alone, but for you it doesn't apply. And what did Sayyidina Abu Bakr do? What was his approach? He stood a very strong and firm approach. وَاللَّهِ لَأُقَاتِلَنَّ مَنْ يُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. He says, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, I will fight the one who tries to separate between prayer and giving zakah, between salah and zakah. So he didn't accept it in the slightest, even though all of the other companions at first, they tell him, no, this is too harsh, you can't do that. But eventually, of course, they all knew that was the right decision. And we read an incident that took place with the tribe of Thaqif, Bani Thaqif, when they came to the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. They came as a delegation to learn about Islam. And the Prophet told them about Islam, and they asked him, they says, are you going to hold us to account for the way in which we practice our Islam when we go back to our people? They're from Ta'if, which is a few hundred miles away. They say, when we go back, are you going to hold us to account now that we're Muslims? And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, if in antum aqrartum bil Islam uqadikum, if you establish and you acknowledge Islam as your way of life, then I am going to judge between you. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And if you don't accept Islam, then there is nothing between us. There is nothing between us. So they says, Ya Rasulullah, one of them, they say, أَفَرَأَيْتَ الزِّنَا? He said, what about zina? This, illegitimate, relationships outside of marriage. What about that, Ya Rasulullah? We are people that are far away from our families, and it's something that we can't resist. And the Prophet ﷺ, huwa alaykum haram. He said, you can't do that. This is something absolutely impermissible. And he quotes to them the ayah, he says, he quotes to them the ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, wa la taqrabu zina. Sorry, wa la taqrabu zina. You don't come close to zina. Don't even approach it on any level. And then they asked him, Ya Rasulullah, what about riba? We are people who, we depend upon that. This faulty economic system, this is how we live. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Huwa alaykum haram. Doesn't matter what you want, you can't do it. And he gives them the evidence. And then they say, Ya Rasulullah, what about khamr, alcohol? Something we can't live without. He said, no, if you come into Islam, that's something you have to leave. And then they become Muslim. And after they take their shahada, then they say, Ya Rasulullah, we want one thing from you. We want to be able to leave our main idol that people worshipped before, Al-Lat. And they said, because we're afraid if we destroy it, then the weak people amongst us, the weak people who are not ready yet for Islam, they'll rebel and they'll act up, and they won't easily succumb to Islam. So let's do it gradually. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said no. They said leave it for 3 years. Thaqif, they told the Prophet ﷺ, Banu Thaqif, they said leave it for let us have it for 3 years. The Prophet ﷺ, he said no. They said, how about 1 year, Ya Rasulullah? He said no. So what about 1 month? We just want this idol to be there 1 month so we can slowly take. He said no. And then they said, finally, they said, we can't demolish it with our own hands. If somebody else can do it, that will be better for us. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, that's fine. Bottom line, he didn't let them pick and choose what they want to do, even when they're at the very beginning of their Islam. Right? Islam does not get broken up and made into what we want to make it, even if we think it's something that is good for us or for our family or the people around us. And this breaking up of Islam, it happens in so many different forms. This is very, subhanAllah, something very important to ponder upon. That in the last couple hundred years, since the different colonial powers of Europe primarily moved into the different parts of the Muslim world and other parts of the world, what happened? Basically what happened is that they told the Muslim world, they say, you can keep your worship system. You can keep your masajid, you can pray. You can keep your civil law, al-ahwal al-shakhsiyya, the way you navigate your marriage and your divorce and your funerals and these private matters of the home. No problem, you can keep all of that. But if you want to come into the modern world, then you have to accept our political systems. You have to accept our economic systems. You have to accept our criminal law systems, and so on and so forth. And they tried to get the Muslim Ummah as a whole scale, and they were largely successful to relegate Islam to only one small aspect of our comprehensive life, just to the acts of worship and these other few matters regarding our celebrations and aqiqah and life issues, life markers. And what happened with that? The Muslim world lost its spirit. It lost its comprehensive reality. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He warns us of this when He says, وَأَنِحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَاحْذَرْهُمْ أَن يَفْتِنُوكَ عَنْ بَعْضِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and judge between them with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down, the divine guidance as a complete system, and do not follow their desires and their inclinations. And beware of them lest they take you away, lest they become a fitna for you and they tempt you away from the deen, from part of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to you. And this is what has happened in the Muslim world. Alhamdulillah, there's been an Islamic revival in many parts of the world in the last few decades, and Muslims have come back to this comprehensive understanding of the deen. But the reality is this had a large effect on the Muslim ummah and its growth and the stunting of its growth. But now we realize that Islam is this whole system. And there's a beautiful article that's written by the great scholar Abul Hasan al-Nadwi, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great scholar of India, of the modern age. And he talked about this difference between, and this because this is another issue related to breaking Islam up. He talked about بين الصورة والحقيقة. He talked about the difference between a surface understanding and implementation of Islam and a deep, realistic, fully comprehensive understanding of Islam. بين الصورة والحقيقة, between what is just, what looks to be Islam, people praying, things on the outward, the way that people dress, but then the reality of Islam and its real depth. And he says, إن لكل شيء له صورة وحقيقة وبينهما فرق كبير رغم الشبه العظيم. He says that between the surface understanding of Islam and its deep reality of what it really is, there is a huge difference, even though it may appear on the surface that people are, these are Muslims and they're practicing Islam, but there's a very big difference between those who are stuck on a surface level practice of their deen. And then he gives an example, a very nice example that makes it very clear. He says, if you have, sometimes you go to a place and you see on the table a basket of fruit, but the fruit is made from plastic, but from far away it looks, pear, an apple, a pomegranate, it looks real. And then you go next to it, you pick it up, and you automatically, this is nothing, this is, useless. Versus the real deal, which when you take it, you open it, you benefit from it, you get the nutrients, and you see, there's no comparison between what looks on the surface to be Islam and what is the deep core reality of Islam. And then he gives another example. He says that, in a museum where they stuff animals, you have eagles and falcons and lions and leopards and so on and so forth, and they even look scary with their faces and everything. But the reality is that when a little kid comes by, he can just push over that lion and knock it off, just like that. Why? Because it's surah, it's just a picture, it's just a surface reality, it's not the deep core reality of what Islam is. That's why when the West came, and when Muslims now come to the West, that it pushed Islam over. Why? Because Muslims just had this very surface reality as it related to their deen, in terms of their practice, right? In terms of their practice. We didn't take this attitude of Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kafa. O you who believe, enter into Islam wholeheartedly. Every single aspect of it, take it and live it in every aspect of your life. And the Prophet ﷺ, he talked about this as well from a different angle. When he said in the famous hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إلى أجسامكم ولا صوركم ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't look at your surface reality, at your bodies and your external shape. He doesn't care about that. But what He cares about is what's inside your hearts, and then what emanates from your hearts, your good deeds, right? So this is the approach that we have to our Islam, that we have a deep, firm iman that is grounded in solid practice, and we don't we're not stuck with surface understandings of what our deen is while neglecting a great aspect, the larger whole of what our deen is. And that's why when we read in the famous ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about this concept of birr. Birr is a comprehensive word used to describe all sorts of goodness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبْلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Birr, righteousness, is not in facing the east or the west. It's not the direction in which you pray and that makes you righteous. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives a comprehensive understanding of what birr is. Birr is to believe in Allah and the Day of Judgments and all of the different beliefs that we believe in, and then to take care of those who are in need, and then to be patient in good times and bad times. This comprehensive reality of what Islam is, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to understand our deen in its full totality, and make dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. In this beautiful ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أُدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَّةً. O you who believe, enter into Islam with your full body and soul. The second part of the ayah is very important to understand, and why these two are put together. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. The second part of the ayah reads, and don't follow the footsteps of Satan, because he is a clear enemy for you. What is the relationship between the two? If you put down your guard, and if you say, this part of Islam, it doesn't concern me. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to disregard it. I'm not going to live this part of Islam because it doesn't work for me. What does that mean? That means you've opened the door for shaitan. And Allah tells us, don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. Don't try to pick and choose your way navigating Islam, thinking that you have a deeper wisdom or some an intellect that is going to allow you to navigate the divine guidance by picking and choosing. Take it all together, and if you don't take it all together, then know that you are following the footsteps of shaitan. And that's how he takes a person away. People don't leave Islam or go far away from Islam in 1 second, in one day. But this part of Islam, it doesn't really work for me. The dress code of Islam, I'm not going to worry about it because it's too much. Praying 5 times a day, that's too much. Giving this X amount of zakah, it doesn't make sense, it's too much for me. Picking and fasting in Ramadan, it's too hard for me to do. I can't do it. It's just something I can't do. Or leaving riba, engaging in interest, or whatever it is. Shaitan will take you step by step by step, right? Until he takes you all the way. And even if you are a Muslim, whether your footsteps are moving forward or you're moving backwards, meaning you're moving closer to Allah or you're moving farther from Allah, Shaitan is going to be there trying to stop you from going forward by diverting you. If you have one bad habit, even though alhamdulillah Islam is my way of life, I want to live, I want to raise my family and such, but he's still going to try to hold you with certain things to do. And if you go backwards, he's going to keep taking you backwards. So it's very important, brothers and sisters, that we keep these realities in mind, and that we understand that we have to approach this deen, this beautiful way of life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and completely embrace it, because it is the absolute best way for us to live. اللهم إني داع فقولوا آمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في كل مكان. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أقم الصلاة.